The diner smelled of fried bacon, hot coffee, and fresh bread rolls. To most people, it was comfort, warmth, and home. But for one small boy standing by the door, that scent was not comfort. It was torture. His name was Mason. He was only 12, but his thin frame and hollow cheeks made him look far older in pain, yet smaller in strength. His sneakers were torn, his shirt hung loose on his fragile body, and his eyes, those deep, heavy eyes, carried more weight than a child's ever should. His stomach growled so loud he pressed both hands against it, embarrassed by the noise. Mason had been walking the streets for hours. He wasn't looking for toys or coins dropped on the sidewalk. He was looking for food, for mercy, for someone who might notice him and show even a little care. And finally, standing in front of that diner, he gathered the courage to whisper a request. But not everyone believed in mercy. Curtis, the manager of the diner, spotted Mason lingering by the counter. To Curtis, Mason wasn't a hungry child. He wasn't a boy in need. He was just a nuisance, a stray shadow, a problem that didn't belong in his spotless, family-friendly diner. When Mason softly asked if maybe there was leftover bread, Curtis's face twisted in irritation. In front of the customers sipping coffee, Curtis barked out cruel words. His voice was sharp, dripping with disgust. He grabbed Mason by the shoulder and shoved him out the door like trash. "Get out! Don't come back!" The hot pavement burned under Mason's sneakers as he stumbled outside. His face flushed with humiliation, his chest heavy with shame. Through the diner window he could see plates of pancakes, omelets, and biscuits being served to others. His lips quivered, his eyes stung, but he didn't cry. Not out loud. He simply lowered his head, slid down against the diner wall, and curled into himself, knees to his chest, too tired to keep moving, too weak to try again. Inside, the diners returned to their meals. Curtis straightened his apron, proud of himself for keeping order. But just beyond the silence, the sound of engines began to rise. The low growl of motorcycles filled the street. One by one, heavy bikes pulled up outside. Chrome flashed in the sunlight. Jackets patched with skulls, wings, and fire glinted as boots hit the ground. A group of 10 men walked toward the diner. Broad shoulders, tattooed arms, leather vests. The kind of men whose presence turned heads, whose names were whispered with fear. "The Hells Angels," someone muttered. Curtis's heart skipped. He had dealt with rowdy customers before, but this was different. These weren't men you tossed out. These were men you treated carefully. Mason lifted his head at the sound. Fear stabbed at him, too. He had heard the stories. Dangerous, wild men who lived by no rules but their own. He shrank back against the wall, trying to make himself invisible. But one of them noticed him. A tall man with silver hair beneath his helmet paused. His eyes locked on Mason's cracked lips and trembling hands. He didn't look away. He crouched down, close enough for Mason to see the scars etched across his knuckles, the tattoos covering his arms. His name was Rocco. For a long moment, Rocco just looked at the boy. Mason quickly wiped at his cheeks, ashamed to be seen crying. He tried to hold steady, to not appear weak. Rocco's eyes softened. Then he stood, gave a silent nod to his crew, and walked inside. The door swung open, the bell jingled sharply. Conversation inside the diner hushed. Every head turned. Curtis, suddenly polite, rushed forward with a fake smile plastered across his face. "Welcome, welcome, table for how many?" His voice cracked with false cheer. The bikers pointed to the largest booth near the window, the very booth Mason had been staring at before he was thrown out. They slid in, leather creaking against the seats, filling the space with quiet dominance. Curtis handed out menus nervously, eager to keep them happy. But just as he turned to leave, Rocco's gravelly voice cut through the air. "Hey, that kid outside, why is he sitting on the sidewalk?" The question wasn't casual. It was sharp, deliberate. Curtis froze. His throat went dry. He stammered something about the boy being a beggar, about not wanting him to bother paying customers. He tried to laugh it off like it was nothing. But the laughter died when Rocco leaned forward, resting his tattooed fists on the table. "Bring him in," Rocco said flatly. "Feed him, on our tab." The room went still. Curtis hesitated. His pride told him to resist, but his fear told him otherwise. And when another biker, Hawk, stood up slowly, his towering frame blocking the light from the window, Curtis swallowed his pride. He turned, forced a smile, and walked to the door. "Mason, huh? Come in," he muttered stiffly. Mason blinked in confusion. His body trembled as he stood. Step by step, he entered the diner again, this time under the watchful eyes of everyone. He glanced nervously at Curtis, then at the group of bikers, unsure why this was happening. Rocco motioned him over with a simple tilt of his head. Mason slid into the edge of their booth, sitting small and unsure, like he didn't belong. But then something incredible happened. The waitress, catching on, brought a stack of pancakes, eggs, sausage, and a tall glass of milk. More food than Mason had seen in days. His hands shook as he picked up the fork. At first he ate slow, unsure if it was real. Then hunger overtook him, and he ate faster, with silent tears slipping down his cheeks. The bikers didn't laugh. They didn't tease. They just watched with respect. A few nodded. Some gave faint smiles. Rocco lit a cigarette, exhaled smoke, and said, "Kid, eat as much as you want. Today, you sit with us." In that moment, Mason wasn't invisible. He wasn't an outcast. He wasn't a hungry boy begging outside. He was part of something. Curtis stood behind the counter, fuming silently, his pride crushed. The same customers who had ignored Mason earlier now whispered, guilt heavy in their voices. They realized they had watched cruelty and done nothing, but the bikers had done something. By the time Mason's plate was clean, his stomach finally full, his eyes welled with tears again. But this time, they weren't from hunger. They weren't from shame. They were from gratitude. Rocco placed a $20 bill on the table and told the waitress to keep it. Then he leaned close to Mason. "Kid," he said, his voice firm but kind, "don't you ever let the world tell you you're worth nothing. You hear me? You matter." Mason nodded, too choked up to speak. Those words cut deeper than hunger, deeper than rejection. They became a memory he would carry for life. And in that diner, filled with the smell of bacon and bread, a lesson was written. Compassion is stronger than cruelty. A meal can be more than food, it can be hope.